and cross-border connectivity within the Mekong sub-region.
Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam.
Welcome to Kuala Lumpur. Yeah, thank you. Sure, that would be.
And now arriving, the delegation from the Socialist Republic of Vietnam.
At the ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting, Vietnam reaffirmed its steadfast commitment to ASEAN unity, regional peace, and sustainable development. And as a proactive and responsible member of ASEAN, Vietnam continues to advocate for mutual respect, adherence to international law, multilateralism as the foundation for lasting stability in Southeast Asia.
And now arriving, the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, to officiate the opening of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting here in Kuala Lumpur.
A hush of anticipation gives a warm applause and welcome to the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, stepping forward as he paused for a brief exchange, an honest and also almost respectable note, bearing a smile that speaks years of partnerships. Before turning to acknowledge all of the envoys with sincere and outstretched hand, and this moment is an important establishment, seamlessly from the arrival to engagement, setting the stage for Malaysia's vision of unity in action.
With decades of statesmanship and global recognition, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim is expected to deliver a keynote address that highlights ASEAN's unity, purpose, and long-term direction in a rapidly changing world.
And here, amidst the gentle hum of conversations, ASEAN's enduring strengths are on full display. From centrality, diversity, impact, and the promise of the future. And it is the opening chapter of a shared narrative, one in which 10 nations and a hopeful newcomer come together to navigate the complexities of the 21st century Indo-Pacific.
And today's ceremony marks a significant moment for Malaysia's ASEAN chairmanship. The Prime Minister's vision for a resilient, responsive, and relevant ASEAN will shape the tone of discussions throughout this year's meetings. And with the Prime Minister now is in the hall, the official opening of AMM 2025 is just moments away. Stay with us for full live coverage of the ceremony right here from Kuala Lumpur. And now entering the plenary hall, the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, making his way to officiate the opening of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting.
As they're settling into the seats, then the Prime Minister's warm greeting echoes softly. The true purpose of this gathering comes sharply into focus. And this is more than a ceremonial handshake. It is the opening chapter of a shared narrative, one of which 10 nations and a hopeful newcomer come together to navigate the complexities of this 21st century Indo-Pacific.
Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's arrival marks a pivotal moment in this morning's proceedings. As the host nation's leader, his address will set the tone for Malaysia's ASEAN Chairmanship in 2025, focusing on regional solidarity, economic resilience, and global relevance. Malaysia's leadership comes at a time when ASEAN must navigate increasingly complex challenges. The Prime Minister's long-standing engagement in regional affairs places him in a unique position to call for collective purpose and unity.
With a gentle hum of conversations to meetings, ASEAN's enduring strengths are definitely on full display. Network of relationships and institutions that anchors regional cooperation even as great power dynamics shift around it. With every nod exchange today, it reaffirms that ASEAN does not merely react to global currents, it is actually shaping them, providing a platform where dialogue trumps division and consensus trumps coercion.
And with the Prime Minister now in place, the opening ceremony will begin shortly, followed by the plenary session of ASEAN's top foreign policy decision makers.
This is a diversity, a mosaic of cultures, economy, and political systems that together represent nearly 650 million people, from the archipelagos of Indonesia to the highlands of Laos, to Brunei's oil-rich sultanate to Timor-Leste's emerging democracy. Each minister carries the weight of domestic priorities. In this whole room, those differences become assets, the sources of resilience, innovation, and shared learning. There's going to be a lot of discussion on cybersecurity that must account for both Singapore's technological prowess and Cambodia's connectivity challenges. The conversation on climate resilient bridges, Vietnam's and the Philippines' typhoon belt.
And we can see this informal interaction, though brief, reflects the personal diplomacy and mutual respect that have long underpinned ASEAN's strength. Behind every formal statement is a relationship built over years of trust, dialogue, and shared vision.
First, the Secretary for Foreign Affairs of the Philippines.
A warm greeting that ripples outward in trade pacts that lower barriers for small businesses to big corporations, joint exercises that train fire responders to natural disasters, as well as in youth exchanges that spark the next generation of regional leaders.
Next, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Brunei Darussalam.
And now the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, is seen greeting the delegation from Brunei Darussalam. The Honorable Datuk Sri Setia Haji Eriwan bin Pehin Datu Kermajaya Haji Muhammad Yusof, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Brunei Darussalam.
The last year's ASEAN's logistics roadmap finalizing similar meetings like this
Next, the Turkish
achieved
Prime Minister and Minister
2
of Foreign
days
Affairs
of
and
shipment
International
times.
Cooperation of Cambodia.
From the free trade agreements nurtured here account for over a quarter of a global GDP. And this week's dialogue will set the tone for the next wave of digital economy pilots, renewable energy grids, as well as the people-centered initiatives, projects that will be measured not only in policy papers, but in the livelihoods of opportunities of everyday citizens.
Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim extending a warm welcome to His Excellency Sugiono, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Indonesia.
This is the promise of the future, ASEAN's Vision 2045.
Next, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Singapore.
Chartered by the ministers now being gathered, imagines a community that is cohesive, dynamic, and outward-looking. This is more than a polite preamble. It is a moment where political will is being translated into collective action. A signal that despite a challenging world, ASEAN's founding spirit of unity, mutual respect, and shared progress remains as vital as ever.
Next, the Deputy Minister. Thank you, Excellency. You can take your seat. Next, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Vietnam.
And now Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim is greeting the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Socialist Republic of Vietnam.
Next, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Lao PTR.
And he is also greeting the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Lao PDR.
Next, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of Timor-Leste. Thank you very much, Excellency. Can you take your seat? The last but not least, the Secretary General of ASEAN.
The ASEAN Secretariat, His Excellency Dr. Kau Kyung Han, is greeted by Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, the Prime Minister of Malaysia.
And now with all ASEAN foreign ministers and the ASEAN Secretary General officially present and seated, the session of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting is about to begin.
ASEAN Foreign Ministers and Heads of Delegation, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of Timor-Leste, Secretary General of ASEAN. The courtesy call will begin with remarks by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia, followed by the Secretary for Foreign Affairs of the Philippines, and remarks by the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia. With that, Dr. Sri, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang berhormat Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia, my fellow colleagues, Foreign Minister of ASEAN, Secretary General, ASEAN. Very good morning and welcome to, a very warm welcome to all of you. Sir, it is my great honor to present to you my esteemed colleagues, the foreign ministers of the ASEAN family, as well as the Secretary General of ASEAN. We are truly privileged by your presence here today. I know you just arrived at 3 a.m. this morning, but despite that, you are here. We really appreciate that. We gathered this meeting for the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting, and related meetings. 6 decades already. This meeting has shaped the course of regional.
And we are now witnessing a long-standing ASEAN tradition, the official courtesy call on the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, and by all ASEAN foreign ministers. This gesture of respect takes place ahead of the official opening of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting. It symbolizes not only the host country's hospitality, but also ASEAN's collective respect for leadership, diplomacy, and regional unity. Malaysia, as chair of ASEAN in 2025, plays a central role in guiding the region through a year of strategic focus. And this courtesy call allows the ministers to reaffirm their shared commitment to ASEAN's goals under the chairmanship of Malaysia.
But the role of Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, embodies Malaysia's leadership in advancing a peaceful, inclusive, and forward-looking ASEAN agenda. His vision for the region continues to emphasize dialogue over division, development over disparity, and diplomacy over discord. This session will provide a rare opportunity for direct engagement between ASEAN's top political leadership and the head of government of the host nation. It would also set the tone for today's proceeding, underscoring not just the strength of Malaysia's bilateral relationships, but also the collective resolve of ASEAN member states to navigate today's global uncertainties with regional unity and purpose. And this moment is emblematic of ASEAN's approach to international relations, anchored in consensus, strengthened through dialogue, and driven by the belief that regional solutions are best shaped together.
And Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim is expected to express Malaysia's vision for a more resilient, responsive, and relevant ASEAN, emphasizing economic equity, geopolitical balance, and people-centered development. And after this, we will proceed to the opening ceremony of AMM 2025. The official program continues shortly. Stay with us as we bring you full live coverage from Kuala Lumpur. And we will now take a short break. When we return, we'll bring you full live coverage of the official opening ceremony of AMM 2025, officiated by the Prime Minister himself.
Ah, kenal dulu. Seperti yang keluar apa? Keluar. Atas dalam dia ni lah. Establish. Ah? Gambar di bawah. Gambar di bawah. Mana? Gambar di bawah. Tak ada. Mama kata dia satu gambar ni mama. Dia tahu. Ada establish. Ini kalau orang ingat seperti
a moment of emblematic of ASEAN's approach to international relations, anchored in consensus, strengthened through dialogues and driven by the belief that regional solutions are best shaped together.
Welcome back. The short break has concluded, and now delegates are making their way into the plenary hall for the official opening ceremony of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting.
And as we reflect on the broader goals of this year's ASEAN Chairmanship, the courtesy call stands as a timely reminder. Though it was a private discussion, that leadership, when exercised with humility and vision, remains one of the most powerful forces for regional harmony.
Foreign ministers from all ASEAN member states, along with the Secretary General of ASEAN and senior officials, are now taking their places. In just a few moments, the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, will officiate the ceremony. And there's a sense of anticipation in the air as this important regional meeting begins in earnest. Today's ceremony will highlight ASEAN's unity, Malaysia's chairmanship priorities, and a shared commitment to regional peace, prosperity, and progress.
With the opening reflecting the spirit of ASEAN matters, epicentrum of growth, a reminder that Southeast Asia is not only a strategic passport, but a whole region reaching opportunity, leadership.
And now entering the plenary hall, the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, to officiate the opening ceremony of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting here in Kuala
Anwar bin
Lumpur.
Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia, accompanied by the Honorable Datuk Sri Utama Haji Muhammad bin Haji Hassan, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Malaysia. Thank you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Do kindly be seated. The Honorable Datuk Sri Anwar bin Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia. The Honorable Datuk Sri Haji Fadilah bin Haji Yusof, Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia. The Honorable Datuk Sri Utama Haji Muhammad bin Haji Hassan, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia. Her Excellency Maria Teresa Lazaro, Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Philippines. The Honorable Datuk Sri Setia Haji Eriwan bin Pehin Datuk Pakirma Jaya Haji Muhammad Yusof, Minister of Foreign Affairs II of Brunei Darussalam. His Excellency Prak Songkhon, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Kingdom of Cambodia. His Excellency Sugiono, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. His Excellency Tongsavan Pomvinhane, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Lao People's Democratic Republic. His Excellency Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Singapore. His Excellency Mari Sagyampongsa, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Thailand. His Excellency Bui Tan Son, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. His Excellency Kao Nhun Oo, Acting Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar. His Excellency Bendito dos Santos Freitas, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste. His Excellency Dr. Kao Kim Horn, Secretary General of ASEAN. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, friends of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning and selamat datang. Welcome to the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting, held under the theme of Malaysia's ASEAN Chairmanship for 2025, Inclusivity and Sustainability. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to invite everyone to kindly rise for the ASEAN Anthem. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Do kindly be seated. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause to the talented children, singers, and their dedicated choir instructors for a truly graceful and inspiring performance. The rendition of the ASEAN Anthem, the ASEAN Way, was proudly presented by the graceful children from the Malaysian Federation of the Deaf and the National Choir of Malaysia. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm privileged to invite the chair of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting, the Honorable Datuk Sri Utama Haji Muhammad bin Haji Hassan, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia, to deliver his welcoming remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Sri Anwar bin Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia. Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Sri Haji Fadilah bin Haji Yusof, Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia. Excellencies, Foreign Ministers of ASEAN Member States. His Excellency Dr. Kao Kim Hoon, Secretary General of ASEAN. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning. Datuk Sri, let me begin by expressing my deepest appreciation to you, sir, for your presence today. I know you just arrived from Rio at 3 a.m. this morning, and you still made it here for this. I thank you very much for that. Datuk Sri, on behalf of the Malaysian government, I am pleased to welcome our ASEAN colleagues back to Kuala Lumpur for the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting. ASEAN has come a long way since its inception 58 years ago. On that day, 5 of our leaders gathered to plant the seeds of our community with the signing of the Bangkok Declaration. This was a major turning point in the history of the region. In 1967, ASEAN was born into a world defined by nuclear brinkmanship and proxy wars being fought across the globe. Amid such tensions, it was a visionary act to bring 5 Southeast Asian nations together in the name of peace. In a world fragmented by conflict, our founders chose to build bridges and uplift multilateralism. Today we face newer threats: climate change, disruptive technologies, societies driven apart by political and economic polarization. In the realm of geopolitics, great power rivalries cast their long shadows across our region. Protectionism endangers the open multilateral trade which powered our growth. Distant conflicts disrupt our markets, supply chains, and food security. These issues endanger us all, but especially those of us in the global south. We in ASEAN must focus our effort toward the full future-proof Southeast Asia. We must keep our spirit of strategic autonomy and collective action alive. With the torch now in our hand, we must lead our peoples into a safer, more equitable future. In pursuit of this goal, Malaysia's chairmanship is guided by the aspirations of inclusivity and sustainability. We aim to strengthen regional peace, stability, and prosperity within a future-oriented framework anchored in these values. Just weeks ago in this hall, our leaders signed the Kuala Lumpur Declaration on ASEAN 2045, our shared future, and adopted the ASEAN Community Vision 2045. This 20-year vision aims for a resilient, innovative, and people-centered ASEAN. That journey begins now. Our course shall be steered by ASEAN centrality, allowing us to shape regional architecture on our terms. With this strategic clarity, ASEAN will engage our 11 dialogue partners in the upcoming post-ministerial conferences, laying the groundwork for the ASEAN Plus 3 and East Asia summits. This ensures economic cooperation and strategic trust move in tandem. We will also convene the ASEAN Regional Forum with renewed resolve, affirming its role as the region's key platform for political security dialogue. ASEAN's principles are being embraced well beyond our region. Later today, we welcome Algeria and Uruguay as new signatories to the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation. Our Foreign Minister of Algeria and also Uruguay also in this hall, Dato' Sri. And on Friday, Malaysia will host the fourth cooperation among East Asian countries for Palestinian development, reaffirming ASEAN's solidarity with the Palestinian people. As I conclude, I remind my colleagues, ASEAN has never shied away from ambition. Our work carries the hopes and futures of the nearly 700 million souls we represent. This stage is set and the moment is ours. Dato' Sri, it is now my privilege to invite you, Prime Minister of Malaysia, to deliver your opening address. The stage is yours, sir. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera untuk Mak San, Menteri Luar yang mempengusikan sidang, saudara saya TPM Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof, Menteri-Menteri, rakan-rakan Menteri-Menteri ASEAN, tuan-tuan yang utama, saudara-saudari yang dimuliakan. Satu penghormatan lagi kepada Malaysia, tatkala mempengusikan ASEAN tahun ini dan menyelenggara sidang utama hari ini, kerana di sinilah tapak untuk kita kembangkan perbincangan pada bulan Oktober nanti. Izin kami menyatakan bahawa kekuatan ASEAN inilah jaminan keamanan. Kekuatan ASEAN ini ialah jaminan pertumbuhan ekonomi. Dan kekuatan ini juga diharapkan untuk menjaga kepentingan rakyat ASEAN keseluruhannya. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I begin and seek your indulgence to express my personal feelings and concern, as I also expressed to my friends, foreign ministers this morning. That is, from the most senior leaders in ASEAN to the present, we have achieved thus far due to the level of trust, friendship among leaders, and I believe foreign ministers too. The more contentious issues like Myanmar, the 5-point consensus, whether to be able to meet Prime Minister Military Junta and NUG Prime Minister. When we discussed with the leaders, without exception, full of support and confidence shown. Similarly, after the event, we were able to engage again to seek a common platform, understanding how to proceed. Even the unfortunate incidents recently between Cambodia and Thailand, which of course most leaders, all ASEAN leaders, do express some concern. But we had no inhibition at all to immediately call our colleagues, in both countries, to express our concern and to support all endeavors, initiative to secure a lasting peace. We have gone through phases to ensure a relative success of ASEAN, including areas that we think have faced some limitations, like inter-ASEAN trade, joint investments. But we have done relatively well because, again, I must reiterate the level of trust and confidence that we have among ourselves. I've just returned, as you know, from Rio. I was in Italy, France before that. Without exception, meeting leaders, of course, bilateral sessions with Malaysia, but without exception, they all ask about ASEAN. Everyone have recognized the role of ASEAN. ASEAN now has come and achieved a spectacular position, measure of respect and recognition internationally, and I must thank you all, and particularly the foreign ministers. So welcome officially to Kuala Lumpur for the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting. We are at the moment where we have to make courageous choices about ASEAN's priorities, our voice in the world, how we shape the region between now and 2045. So again, thank you to the foreign ministers, leaders, for the trust shown to us this year and next year to the Philippines. And I've assured President Bongbong Marcos that this part of our endeavor will give all the necessary support and cooperation to ensure the success. ASEAN, as reflected by Foreign Minister Hassan, was not born of ease. It was forged in complexity by nations that understood the perils of divisions and the promise of dialogue. Yet we have persevered and preserved peace and expanded prosperity in ways few regions can equal. We did so by nurturing a habit of cooperation, a willingness to keep engaging, and even in the past, nothing to do with my sleep. Our region's strength, therefore, lies not in the absence of tension, but in our commitment to manage it through mutual respect, continuous dialogue, and the search for consensus. That is the ASEAN way. It must remain our guide. We also look forward to welcoming Timor-Leste as our newest member in October. Malaysia has long supported this aspiration, and we were heartened by the progress made. And thank again the Secretary General, the Secretariat, for facilitating. And I urge all member states to continue supporting Timor-Leste's path to full integration, not only into our institutions, but for the region's future. Above all, ASEAN centrality must be our North Star, as reflected by the continuous strengthening and innovation of ASEAN-led institutions. We must remain the region's primary anchor for dialogue, inasmuch as our dialogue partners must continue to find value in engaging with us. Foreign Minister Hassan is complaining of his headache because everywhere we go, leaders want to at least participate. If they can't join, they want to participate. So I said, please persuade your colleagues, the foreign ministers, that we will we are very likely to have President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa and Lula da Silva of Brazil wanting to join, at least representing their regions. I'm just giving a suggestion. The problem is for the foreign ministers to then facilitate. That's why you are here today. Now, you see, that level of understanding and confidence is unheard of, and it's not the pattern observed by many other regions. I'm very proud. I'm not exaggerating, but I am extremely delighted to be able to contribute and participate with the level of support and trust and friendship shown by all these countries and their leaders. And therefore, please convey my respects to your respective leaders and governments, and wish them well and continue to engage and ensure that the success of ASEAN in the future is rest assured. Now, this meeting takes place amid the unraveling of assumptions where power unsettles principle and calm can no longer be taken for granted. The global order is fraying, conflict, coercion, mistrust now define too many relationships, and countless lives are being lost or overturned in their wake. In Gaza and Palestine, we witness the unrelenting suffering of an entire people, denied dignity and justice across generations. In Ukraine, war grinds on. Across parts of Africa, violence continues to displace and devastate. And in Myanmar, regrettably, peace remains elusive even as suffering deepens. We are also deeply troubled by mounting tensions in the Middle East, with the actions of one state against its neighbors threaten to spark a wider regional conflagration. The risks are profound for energy security, global stability, and the integration of international law. The multilateral system cannot endure if its principles are upheld only when convenient. ASEAN must be among those who choose to stand for rules, even when others choose to retreat. Realism and values are not opposing forces. We need both to guide our choices and to defend what matters. Ministers, Excellencies, power has always shaped trade, but today it increasingly defines it. Across the world, tools once used to generate growth are now wielded to pressure, isolate, and contain. Tariffs, export restrictions, and investment barriers have now become the sharpened instruments of geopolitical rivalry. This is no passing storm. It is a new weather of our time. Now, ASEAN must confront this reality with clarity and conviction. We must read the landscape clinically, speak with coherence, act with foresight. Our cohesion must not end at declarations. It must be built into our institutions, our strategies, and our economic decisions. I therefore urge even closer alignment between ASEAN's foreign and economic policy tracks. Our foreign and economic ministers must move in concert in facing challenges. This imperative is fully aligned with ASEAN's Vision 2045, which calls for greater synergy across pillars and sectors. We must build habits of coordination that match the realities we confront. And as we navigate external pressures, we need to fortify our internal foundations, trade among ourselves, invest more in one another, and advance integration across sectors with resolve. To build a stronger, more connected ASEAN economy is a strategic imperative that will anchor our relevance and resilience for decades to come. We must also reject the idea that the world can be carved into spheres of influence and that decisions about our region can be made elsewhere. We are a region that charts its own course, deliberately, coherently, and with purpose. ASEAN will not be spoken for in absentia. Ministers, Excellencies, as global conditions remain uncertain, there is no overstressing the need to act with purpose in our own region by advancing cooperation that delivers tangible benefits to our people. ASEAN will continue to focus on practical collaboration, connectivity, food security, digital transformation, education, public health, and climate resilience. These efforts take shape in the quiet determination of a mother in Battambang, preparing her stall as dawn breaks over the city. They endure the steady hands of a farmer in central Luzon, tending the land that has sustained generations. And they shine in the hopeful eyes of a child in Chiang Rai, walking to school with dreams of the future. From Sittwe to Merauke, from Da Nang to Dili, our region can become more peaceful and more prosperous if we have the courage to see ASEAN not as nations moving in parallel, but as one community moving with purpose. This is where ASEAN proves its worth, not in communiques, but in outcomes that strengthen our region and serve our people. So let this meeting reaffirm our conviction that ASEAN will remain coherent, resilient, and respected. And with that, I declare the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting officially open. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia. We'd like to invite Yang Amat Berhormat to kindly return to his seat. With that resounding call to action for ASEAN to fortify our unity and resilience, reminding all of ASEAN on centrality being the fundamental principle in defining our collective interests and delivering tangible progress for our people, we move forward into the agenda for the 58th edition of the Foreign Ministers Meetings. Let us once again, ladies and gentlemen, hold in our hearts the spirit of centrality that embodies everything that ASEAN hopes to accomplish as it moves forward into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, next we have a special performance by Istana Budaya that combines elements of drumming and martial arts, echoing the harmonious rhythms of Malaysia's many cultures. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to feast your eyes on the many colors and wonderful cacophony of stage performance that is presented to you this morning. Please, a round of applause for the wonderful talents of Istana Budaya. Round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen, for our talented performance. Truly outstanding and captivating this morning. The music, dance, and the visual arts are inspired by the textures, sounds, and rhythms of the environment, drawing inspiration from Malaysia's emblematic flora and fauna. As we honor the artistry of our people, we also pay tribute to the land that grounds us and the natural heritage that continues to shape our identity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the beauty of everyday life here in Malaysia. And on that note, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to now welcome our distinguished guests to the stage for our photo opportunities. First, for the official photograph, may we kindly invite all foreign ministers of ASEAN, the Sovereign Leader of Myanmar, the Foreign Minister of Timor-Leste, the ASEAN Secretary General, and the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia to kindly join us on stage. Let us record the first official photograph. And now let us have a photograph with the ASEAN Way handshake. This one always brings everyone closer. And our final photograph, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring out our performers for a nice big group photograph reflecting the theme of Malaysia's ASEAN Chairmanship, inclusivity and sustainability. Once again, introducing our performers from Istana Budaya, we also have the National Choir in attendance, and the very graceful and talented performers, the children from the Federation of Deaf Malaysia. We'd like to direct everyone's attention to the cameras in front for our final photograph. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting is officially open. We wish all delegates a successful meeting ahead. Terima kasih and thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, announcing the departure of the Honorable Datuk Sri Anwar bin Ibrahim, Prime Minister of Malaysia, accompanied by the Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia, the ASEAN Foreign Ministers, Timor-Leste Foreign Minister, and the ASEAN Secretary General.
And that wraps up the official opening ceremony of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting here in Kuala Lumpur, officiated by the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim. The Prime Minister's remarks have set the tone for this year's ASEAN Chairmanship, focused on unity, resilience and relevance in addressing both regional priorities and global challenges.
Now, as the Prime Minister departs the venue, this moment reflects more than the end of an official program. It signals the ongoing commitment to Malaysia, to regional progress and shared prosperity. Under his leadership, Malaysia has placed strong emphasis on fostering economic resilience, sustainability, digital transformation, and the empowerment of youth across the region. This departure is conducted with full ceremonial honor, as it is fitting for a leader whose voice continues to shape regional and international discourse.
The official opening ceremony of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting has just concluded here in Kuala Lumpur, marking the formal beginning of what will be a critical week of regional diplomacy under Malaysia's chairmanship of ASEAN 2025.
And ASEAN is structured around three interconnected pillars: the ASEAN Political Security Community, the ASEAN Economic Community, and the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community. And we are witnessing it all here today.
And just now we saw in keeping with the ASEAN tradition, the opening was marked by the ASEAN anthem, the ASEAN Way, and these musical tributes remind us of both national pride and the shared identity ASEAN has cultivated over the decades. And Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's keynote address set a clear and visionary tone for Malaysia's ASEAN chairmanship. He emphasizes the need for ASEAN to remain resilient in the face of external shocks, responsive to emerging global trends, and most importantly, relevant to the life of its 680 million people.
And indeed, with every step taken today, echoes the aspirations of the next generations and the current generations, with the past and ambitions of future leaders. The plenary hall they are currently approaching is more than a meeting space. It is a platform of conversations, shaping decisions that would impact millions of lives. In a world that is increasingly fragmented, ASEAN stands as a beacon of collaboration, balance, harmony, and shared progress. And this is ASEAN in motion, not just a ceremony, but in purpose, a region grounded in mutual respect, communication, advancing together, and determined to leave no one behind.
Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim's speech also highlighted Malaysia's priorities for the year, including strengthening ASEAN centrality, deepening regional economic integration, enhancing digital and green cooperation, and addressing challenges such as food security, climate change, and the digital divide. And with the official ceremony now concluded, at a tone set for AMM 2025, the foreign ministers will next move into the plenary session, where the real work of regional coordination and policy alignment begins.
At the end of coordination in the ASEAN Secretary General, who ensures that dialogue translates into action and that regional agenda is advanced consistently across all 10, soon 11 member nations. And we will continue to the next agenda of the meeting shortly after.
And we will take a short break as preparations are made for the plenary. Stay with us for continued live coverage as ASEAN steps forward together, united in purpose and partnership. From Kuala Lumpur, stay tuned.
We'll now continue with one of the key components of today's program, the plenary sessions of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting, convening the foreign ministers of ASEAN member states. The delegation from Timor-Leste, as well as the senior officials from the ASEAN Secretariat. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this session will serve as the engine room of ASEAN diplomacy and regional policy making, where all the strategic direction is being discussed, consensus is shaped, and collective action is charted. And it is here that ASEAN's four pillars, political to security cooperation, economic integration, and social, cultural connectivity are reviewed, assessed, and refined to remain relevant in an ever-evolving global context. Now, among the pressing topics often discussed or addressed in this forum are usually issues on maritime security, economic resilience, post-pandemic, climate adaptation, digital transformation, disaster preparedness, human rights, and sustainable development, all with the shared goal of building a region that is entirely peaceful, prosperous, and people-centered. But this year's plenary session carries added weight as ASEAN advances toward the realization of ASEAN's Vision 2045, a long-term commitment to a region that is outward-looking, innovation-driven, and ready to lead in an increasingly multipolar world. As ASEAN responds to new challenges from geopolitical tensions to boundary threats, this forum plays a crucial role in ensuring that the region speaks with one voice together, guided by the shared values of peace, mutual respect, and non-interference.
And we are now entering the heart of ASEAN's decision-making process, the plenary session of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting, conducted in a roundtable format to encourage open dialogue and consensus building. And this setting, symbolic of ASEAN's equal partnership and mutual respect, allows each foreign minister an equal voice at the table. The roundtable format encourages active discussion, evaluation of regional developments, and collective review of ASEAN's strategic priorities.
This year's meeting are especially significant as they will contribute to the broader goals outlined in the ASEAN Community Vision 2025 and the forward-looking ASEAN Vision 2025, with the blueprints seeking to build a more competitive, integrated, people-oriented and resilient community, one that is agile in responding to global trends such as digital transformation, climate change, public health, regional security, and entirely shifting trade flows. Now, among the flagship initiatives shaping ASEAN's future are the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, which promotes open, inclusive regionalism, as well as the whole rules-based cooperation where the ASEAN Digital Economy Framework Agreement poised to harmonize the digital trade and innovation across all regions. In the ongoing efforts in disaster management, environmental sustainability, gender equity, as well as human rights for all.
And this session fosters direct exchange through to ASEAN consultative, consensus-based approach and will now listen in as ministers begin their interventions, shaping the direction of ASEAN's future together. Among the topics expected to be raised are ASEAN's response to geopolitical tensions, humanitarian issues, ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific, climate cooperation, and preparations for the ASEAN community's post-2025 vision. Chaired by Malaysia's Foreign Minister, Datuk Sri Haji Mohamad Hassan, the session will evaluate progress on key ASEAN initiatives, including regional stability, economic recovery, digital and green transitions, and ASEAN's relations with external partners.
As conversations flow from table to table, side to side, all the officers will circulate to capture the key points, ensuring that insights gained will inform the retreat to even the closing session shortly. Now, some of the key areas that they will look into, part of the opportunity, are deepening the dialogue, where ministers can follow up on the official sessions, the trilateral meetings, by exploring practical next steps in smaller group settings, as well as forging new partnerships where side discussions may be convened on issues like digital connectivity, climate resilience, and sustainable finance, allowing delegates to identify synergies as well as join the projects.
As the host city for the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting, Kuala Lumpur has stepped into the regional spotlight, meticulously prepared to welcome the region's top diplomats, observers, and delegates from all ASEAN member states. From upgraded facilities at the summit venue to multilingual welcome teams at airports and hotels, every detail has been thoughtfully arranged under Malaysia's chairmanship of ASEAN 2025. The city's vibrant atmosphere reflects both tradition and modernity, perfectly capturing this year's ASEAN's theme, inclusivity and sustainability.
And shortly, we'll turn our focus on one of the key highlights of this year's ASEAN meeting, where all of the meetings will be bringing together the foreign ministers of all ASEAN member states, alongside the ASEAN Secretary General, as well as the invited partners, to deliberate on critical regional and global issues that will impact Southeast Asia and beyond.
Your electronic devices to silent mode, please. Thank you for your cooperation.
With the agenda of today expecting to cover a broad range of key issues, which includes regional security, maritime cooperation, post-pandemic economic recovery, humanitarian assistance, disaster preparedness, and climate resilience. Ministers would also be discussing the ongoing efforts to implement the ASEAN Community Vision 2025 and the next phase of ASEAN's long-term roadmap toward Vision 2045.
And everyone is now kindly invited to be seated as we prepare to begin the plenary session of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting here in Kuala Lumpur. And this session will definitely provide a space for ministers to deliver their country statements, evaluate regional progress, and exchange views on ASEAN's future direction, including post-2025 priorities and current geopolitical developments.
In addition to that as well, the foreign ministers will engage in discussions with ASEAN dialogue partners and external stakeholders for the reinforcing ASEAN's centrality in the evolving regional architecture. Now, with strong ties to over 50 countries and organizations, ASEAN plays a vital convening role in global diplomacy, and this meeting helps maintain those essential linkages. As the proceedings unfold shortly, we're reminded that ASEAN is not merely a political or economic grouping. It is a community built on trust, dialogue, and the shared aspiration for a better future. The decisions made here today will contribute meaningfully to shaping that future, one that is peaceful, inclusive, and sustainable for generations to come. And we're all here to witness it today.
And definitely Kuala Lumpur's cultural warmth is on full display, from traditional performances to uniquely Malaysian hospitality served at official functions. Local touches reflect the host country's identity while honoring ASEAN shared heritage. In every corner of this capital, the message is clear. Kuala Lumpur is ready. More than just a host, it stands proudly as the diplomatic heart of Southeast Asia this week, driving forward ASEAN's collective future. And preparing for this, security coordination has also been top tier, with seamless logistics managed by Malaysian authorities to ensure the safety and comfort of all attending dignitaries. Special lanes, protocol teams, and 24-hour operation centers are in place to facilitate smooth movement across the city. From upgraded facilities at the summit venue to multilingual welcome teams at airports and hotels, every detail has been thoughtfully arranged under the Malaysia's chairmanship of ASEAN 2025. The city's vibrant atmosphere reflects both tradition and modernity, perfectly capturing this year's theme, inclusivity and sustainability.
With ASEAN home to over 660 million people, which is about nearly 9% of the world's population, it is making it the world's fifth largest economy. And this region accounts for over 7% of global trade and is forecast to grow by 4.6% in this year alone. With this meeting today, we're focusing on four overarching themes, which are strengthening ASEAN's centrality and unity, advancing the ASEAN Community Vision 2025 and beyond, enhancing external partnerships and strategic cooperation, as well as Timor-Leste's accession to ASEAN. Now, security remains a major pillar of the discussions. From the South China Sea disputes to the humanitarian crisis in Myanmar, ASEAN must walk a delicate balance, upholding peace and diplomacy while safeguarding regional sovereignty and stability. With a 5-point consensus on Myanmar agreed upon, it remains a focal point that all of the ministers will discuss next steps in facilitating the humanitarian aid and supporting peaceful dialogue. Now, amid growing tensions between major powers, ASEAN will remain committed to being neutral and stabilizing force, which will include supporting international law, freedom of navigation, nuclear non-proliferation, and constructive regionalization, which is all entirely principles on enshrined in the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, contributing to gain signatories beyond Southeast Asia.
And as we await for the official start of the plenary session of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting here in Kuala Lumpur, a sense of quiet anticipation fills the room. And this is the heart of ASEAN diplomacy, a space where nations come not just to speak, but to listen, deliberate and shape regional consensus. Held under Malaysia's chairmanship in 2025, this year's meeting comes at a pivotal time. The region faces evolving geopolitical tensions, accelerating digital and green transitions, and the imperative to ensure peace and prosperity for over 600 million people. Each ASEAN foreign minister brings with them their nation's perspective and proposals, But what makes this gathering unique is that decisions here are not imposed. They are built through dialogue and consensus, reflecting the very ethos of ASEAN cooperation. As the chair prepares call for the meeting to order, attention will soon shift to today's core discussions. Topics may include progress on ASEAN Community Vision 2025, humanitarian concerns, regional economic integration, and ongoing efforts to maintain ASEAN centrality amid the shifting global power dynamics. And moments like this, just before the dialogue begins, capture the weight and purpose of regional diplomacy. We are seeing the arrival of higher ranking officials and senior representatives joining the plenary hall or the plenary session just moments before the session is set to begin. And these individuals include the secretaries, key figures from the ASEAN Secretariat and regional institutions. While not seated at the round table, their roles are integral, advising, facilitating, and supporting the formal discussions to follow. And their attendance underscores the scale of this meeting, not just symbolic, but deeply functional. And these are the individuals who work behind the scenes year-round to carry out the directive of ASEAN leaders and ministers, ensuring policy is translated into action.
And as we await the arrival of the ministers for the next phase of their discussions, this brief fast offers us a moment to reflect on the broader significance of today's gathering. A whole moment that represents more than just diplomatic formality. It is, in many ways, a reaffirmation of ASEAN's role as a community united in diversity, navigating through challenges with shared purpose and a collective spirit.
Announcing the arrival of the Foreign Ministers of ASEAN and Timor-Leste and the Secretary General of ASEAN. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, we kindly invite all Foreign Ministers of ASEAN and Timor-Leste and the Secretary General of ASEAN to please proceed to the stage for a group photo session. Thank you.
And now entering the hall, Datuk Sri Haji Muhammad Hassan, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia, and the chair of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting.
And this foreign ministers gathering here today carry a heavy but meaningful responsibility to steer this region toward a future that is secure, sustainable,
and now the ASEAN way, right hand over the left,
inclusive.
In 3, 2, 1.
And now, as part of the formal program, the ASEAN foreign ministers are gathering.
Thank you,
official
Excellencies. You may kindly take
an
your
iconic
seats.
tradition that symbolizes unity, diplomacy, and regional solidarity.
And as we wait for the proceedings to resume, you're reminded that every moment spent in participation is part of something greater, a process of consensus building, bridge building, and future building. It is a quiet sentiment to ASEAN's enduring belief that diplomacy works best not in haste but in unity, reflection, and mutual respect.
And now the moment has arrived. Datuk Sri Haji Muhammad Hassan, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia and Chair of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers, will begin the plenary session.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting plenary session. Without further ado, may I invite the Honorable Datuk Seri Utama Haji Muhammad bin Haji Hassan, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia, to deliver his opening remarks and proceed with the meeting. Datuk Seri, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished ASEAN colleagues, Secretary General for ASEAN, welcome to the preliminary session of the 58th ASEAN Foreign Ministers Meeting. For 58 years, ASEAN has guided the step of the Southeast Asian nation as we rose to walk with the rest of the world. As our community grew, the contours of global politics transmitted, leading us to bipolarity, to unipolarity, and finally to multipolarity. And with each massive change, we learn to adapt. This remains, as ever, the task before us, Excellencies, for us to adapt. As one contemplates the great challenges of our time, it's become clear that two things are needed above all: foresight and strategy. To overcome the turbulence of the coming years, we must think long-term. It will not do to simply put one foot in front of the other. We must chart a path and lay down its stones. As I said earlier, just 2 months ago, our leaders met and adopted the ASEAN 2045, our shared future. The ASEAN Community Vision 2045 charts our direction for the next 2 decades. The vision reaffirms that ASEAN's destiny lies in our own hands. Our future will not be shaped by external forces, but our own collective resolve. We must ensure a seamless transition from ASEAN 2025, forging ahead together, to ASEAN 2045, our shared future. Moreover, at the 46th ASEAN Summit, we agreed that we would embark on this new chapter of ASEAN community building with Timor-Leste within our ranks as the 11th member of ASEAN. The work must begin now. All ASEAN sectoral bodies, institutions, and mechanisms should already be aligning their priorities to support the actioning of our leaders' decision and ASEAN 2045, our shared future. As we move towards a more inclusive, sustainable, and future-oriented ASEAN community, a most urgent imperative is the need for us to address the existential hazards of climate change. We have witnessed firsthand the effects of rising temperatures, natural disasters, and extreme weather events on our region and its peoples. Moving forward, we must take coordinated and urgent action to ensure that our region remains adaptive and climate change resilient. Colleagues, since we last met, the geopolitical fault lines have been continued to fissure. Strategic trust has thinned and flashpoints have sharpened. In Europe, the war in Ukraine rages on, continuing to disrupt global markets and supply chains. In Gaza, Israel's brutal starvation strategy continues to go unchecked. Emboldened by this impunity, Israel's endless violence has expanded to other countries in the Middle East with its latest offensive attack on Iran. Malaysia absolutely condemns these atrocities. Closer to home, the crisis in Myanmar continues to weigh heavily on our conscience. Despite ASEAN's sustained effort, we have yet to see meaningful progress on the ground. Delayed peace in Myanmar prolongs the sufferings of the people and threatens the region's security. We urge the translation of proclamations of ceasefires into concrete actions, and we call on all stakeholders, particularly the SAC, as the de facto party in power, to commit towards peace and the creation of conducive environment for elections in line with the aspirations of the people of Myanmar. ASEAN will continue to support the path towards a Myanmar-owned and Myanmar-led peaceful resolution to the crisis in the country. Dear colleagues, indeed, dialogue and peaceful resolution are needed now more than ever all over the world. We are witnessing the breakdown of humanity as well as moral and legal norms that once defined the global system. Multilateralism is under attack. Unilateralism and nationalism are on the rise. In this fragmented world, ASEAN's unity and centrality is our capital. At a time where polarization is trending, ASEAN must continue to leverage on our governing power to promote dialogue, diplomacy, and strategic trust, and create space for cooperation. The road ahead will not be easy. The external pressures on our unity will grow. The calls for us to take sides will get louder. The crises around the world may multiply. Amid the uncertainty and unprecedented strain of global challenges, ASEAN must stand firm. ASEAN must be the beacon of hope, be the voice of reason, and continue to be a platform for cooperation and prosperity. We must continue to invest and place our faith in regionalism and multilateralism. We must continue to champion the principles of justice, fairness, equality, and humanity. Above all, I reiterate, we must be the speakers and not the spoken for. Let us move forward with confidence, resolve, and determination, with a commitment to peace and solemn promise to lead and to do the right thing for the betterment of our citizens, our region, and the world. Thank you. Now I would like to invite press, media to have coffee, which is provided outside. Panas ya? Thank you. Have teh tarik first. Vivian, you want teh tarik? Ada, macam teh tarik dah. Ha? Dek, adik, bagi teh tarik dekat Dr. Vivian. Di ujung tu yang dia. Oh, all lah, semua. This is specialty of Malaysia, teh tarik, you know. You come to Malaysia, you didn't taste teh tarik, that means you're missing something. Okay, teh tarik for all.